Thanks for joining us, everyone. William, I'd like to welcome you to QG Connect. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Bharath. Glad to be here today.
I'm really excited to hear about your professional journey, William. But before we get started, William, I'd like to maybe start by asking you if you can give us a little bit of background about BioIQ, the organization where you're working right now.
Absolutely. We are one of the fastest growing technology companies in healthcare right now. And really, this has been growth has been going at a substantial pace since we've gotten involved in the COVID pandemic. BioIQ is a company focused on disrupting the healthcare testing environment by offering in-home medical testing for over 35 different conditions, ranging from A1C and diabetes to multiple types of cancer, sexually transmitted diseases, and now COVID. And we help deliver and spread care to individuals that previously might not have been able to obtain regular testing that's convenient and accessible. And so, our mission is really expanding access to care for our participants. And it's a company that I'm excited to be a part of.
Yeah, I'm sure it must have been pretty busy the last couple of years, William, due to the impact of COVID. And I'm sure that's played a big role in how fast your organization has grown. Maybe if you could also talk a little bit about what your role is at BioIQ.
Absolutely. I'm currently serving as the Chief Data Officer here and have been since September 2021. My role is truly focused on helping drive strategic data alignment across the organization. As we've been growing so quickly and modernizing our practices, it's very useful to make sure that our data principles and standards are following industry standard best practices and that they're in alignment even with the rapid pace of growth across our organization. So, I think as a Chief Data Officer, I'm primarily focused on setting that data strategy, making sure that our delivery and our reports that go out to all of our patients and our customer bases that include many large health plans and over 30 million different members, that those are not only accurate but timely, because our quality really impacts the day-to-day life of so many of our participants. So it's truly a place that I feel like we make an impact in the lives of our customers. And so I'm thankful to have that opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, I really think the office of the CDO has really taken off over the last 5 to 6 years, William. I'm sure you'll agree with me there. And I feel like your office might be a place where all the different teams, maybe teams who work in, let's say, the data governance arena, data analytics, data science, they all sort of come together. And so I think you really have that unique perspective on how to not only make sure all these teams function well, but how do you equip them with the technology and the processes and so on.
I would echo that sentiment. And it goes even beyond your traditional data employees, whether you're scientists, your engineers, your architects, and your analysts. It really goes to every level of the organization because data impacts not only the information technology side and the production side, but also our delivery side, our sales side, finance. Every single group in our organization is attempting to modernize and leverage the value inherent in data. And I think that's what makes BioIQ a great company to work for is there's that excitement and I get to drive that change through the excitement. And it's a really collaborative working environment.
I'd love to double click into some of those aspects, William. But before we go there, I was wondering if we can take a step back and maybe if you could share something about you as a person that most people, you'd want most people to know about. Maybe I'd love to sort of understand that.
Yeah, so if you wanted to peek behind the curtain, I actually got my start in politics. My undergraduate degree was in political science, and I started off working for a number of campaigns and congressional offices in my home state of Arkansas. And this was an exciting time in the early 2000s, and it was a time of great political change, but it was also a time of technology growth where we were beginning to see the rise of social media and digital media as a way to not only access information, but also understand our constituents better. Gone were the days of paying exclusively pollsters to get information on sentiment analysis, and we were starting to be able to do some of that ourselves inside the offices. And that's where I think I was bitten by the data bug, was getting to see how much value there was in this data, whether it was data mining, early data mining on social media like Twitter or Facebook, but it was also being able to look at large swaths of our community and cut turf, which is cutting turf is a term used in the political arena for taking a group of, let's say a geographic information and looking at your voters inside that and seeing who are your likely voters based on records from the Secretary of State's office. Who do we need to reach out to make sure they participate in the next election? And then also, who do we call to poll and see how they feel about certain topics? So while most of my career has been focused on healthcare and finance, I think most people don't know that I actually got my start in politics. So that's a topic they need to know.
No, I'd love to pick your brain, maybe as part of another conversation on the whole aspect around pollsters, because I feel like they've been getting a bad rap the last couple of election cycles.
Right.
And I'm sure you have perspectives around maybe what areas have been working well when it comes to the kind of polling that they do and what hasn't been working well. But yeah, that's why probably, I'm sure you have thoughts there. Maybe that's a topic for another conversation.
Oh, we could talk about politics, elections, and data governance. Sign me up. I'm ready.
I know that I'd love to, follow up with you on that. And just to touch upon the reasons that you mentioned, William, so that you sort of got bit by that bug when you were working with data around your constituents and trying to get deeper insights, leverage this for election cycles and so on. But I was wondering if you could maybe take us through what your journey afterwards looked like.
Absolutely. So starting off in politics, like I said, it was a time of large political change. There was the 2008 financial crisis, which was followed by a lot of political change in the United States. And so it really made me reevaluate, where I wanted to be. And I was itching to get more involved with data. So I actually went towards a more traditional IT background, and first was a network operations center engineer, and then a network operations center manager before going back to school. And I was really in the right place at the right time. The University of Arkansas Little Rock, where I lived, partnered with MIT to develop and deliver an information quality program there in Central Arkansas. So I was really lucky and fortunate to be able to plug into that program and learn about what is, data management, what is data governance, how do we use advanced tools around whether it's entity resolution or data mining or data analytics and analysis to not only accelerate our ideas and our abilities to deliver value, but also to engage in the corporate marketplace and really this was the time when there were some of the first big CDO jobs were becoming available. And I remember looking back and thinking, one day that would be the pinnacle of my career. And so it's really a dream to be here today. I think that after the IT background, I went back to school, and that's where I really started my data management practice. And early, was it 2013 or so, where I started as a consultant for a small boutique firm that focused on entity resolution. I worked for Fortune 100 healthcare companies. I also worked for the federal government, Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, in a large data mining operation before going to a $20 billion bank in Pennsylvania. That took me through my PhD program, and I was thankful enough to graduate with my dissertation completed 2019, and spent some time at USAA as well, which was another great company to work for that really serves and takes pride in the service it delivers to its members. So my career has been exciting. It's, the thing that I value most is the people and relationships I've built along the way. And I'm really thankful that I get to reach out to, this week alone, I've talked to friends I've made at USAA, friends I've made at Fulton Bank in Pennsylvania, and colleagues from even before that. So it's been quite a journey, and stay tuned. We're not done yet here at BioIQ. I think we're really on the cusp of some great things, and delivering quality tests that can help impact and save lives is, it's never a dull moment, but it's something that I'm passionate about, and being able to use data to do so is just icing on top.
No, first of all, I really love the story you just shared, William, and thank you for sharing it. I feel like that aspect of, I mean, I can clearly see that you're a self-made man. You've sort of taken it upon yourself to pursue your passion and your interest. So first of all, I wanted to say I really love it. And I think that also resonates with me because I've heard similar stories from some of the other leaders we've been talking to, where some of them, for example, fell into this space by accident. Some, like yourself, had a plan and they sort of stuck to that plan and saw it through to completion. So I really love how you sort of walked us through your journey there.
Glad
And
to do it.
I was wondering, William, whether you could share, again, going back to your role at BioIQ, this is a question that we've been asking, again, all of the leaders that we've been interviewing. But in your mind, how would you define data governance?
Ooh, that's a great elevator conversation topic. And I use the framework of people, processes, and technology. Data governance is all about determining how, as an organization, we make decisions about data, whether it's data access or data security, risk and compliance, data quality. How do we put in place people, processes, and how do we leverage technology to make sure that we have consensus across the organization, we have application of industry standard best practices, and we measure and improve over time to increase our maturity. So that's a bit of a longer definition than I think we would like to put in a dictionary or anything, but data governance is a complex topic. It's to put it even more concise, it would be, how do we make decisions about data? But I think that anyone that works in the field knows that it's not that simple. It's about those people that help drive change, the processes that we follow to measure adherence or ensure quality and deliver value, and the technology that helps us make our life easier. So we're not just working in Excel all day. So that's how I define it.
No, I think that really makes a lot of sense. And especially, I think, for someone in your role, as you've sort of transitioned through these different industries, the same principles apply, the principles that you just laid out in terms of people, process, and technologies. So I feel like that is something that, again, is very relevant and very, it's a great way to sort of take a 10,000 foot view at data governance and what it entails. And maybe just to double click on that point, I was wondering whether you could also share maybe 2 or 3 challenges that you faced as a data management professional or a CDO, and how have you maybe gone through addressing those challenges?
I think the first real challenge to any good data governance organization, or even a data organization as a whole, or a company organization that's looking to become data driven, is accountability. How do we, it's one thing to set the bar, say, here are the standards that we're going to follow, and we want to be a data driven company. We want to increase the quality of our output. It's a wholly other thing to drive that forward to success and then keep measuring incremental progress. And the way that organizations are going to be successful is through accountability. And it's not as punitive as it sounds. I think that true accountability is about setting and enforcing standards, but also encouraging data literacy efforts. How do we identify and train our data stewards, our data owners, and our executives to know why the decisions they make on a day-to-day basis are at heart data decisions? And then how can we empower them to make more educated decisions in that field? So I think accountability is one area where I've really worked to improve my own acumen and trying to increase and leverage the organization's enthusiasm that I spoke to earlier to help encourage that. How we really work through that is, I think that, well, we start with data governance. We start by setting those standards that we talked about first off. We say the organization is going to become data driven. It's going to have data quality checks at multiple steps in the process. We're going to deliver data-driven products, and we're going to measure our maturity over time. And this could be true for any organization, not just BioIQ. So by setting those parameters, we then meet with and identify stakeholders, educate and inform, make sure that they're aligned. Sometimes that even involves having discussions about job descriptions. If we really have data stewards, make that a part of their job description and reward that work that they're doing already, and help them become champions for the cause. I think that the final way to do that is through measurement. Whether it's the implementation of a data management maturity model like DCAM, which I'm a huge fan of, or whether it's through a more semantic assessment. Sometimes you have to start small and take the little bites of the apple and don't boil the ocean, but by really measuring change and driving through it for incremental improvement, you can see change over time. And that's how accountability really works. It's team effort, and um,
Yeah.
not just holding others accountable. So I think that would be my number one challenge faced, because there's always going to be other priorities. Any organization's got other things to do. There's the bottom line to watch out for, which you've got to always be delivering value. And so, one way that I try to cultivate a culture that really understands the art of the possible is whenever I join an organization, I don't come in and say, I know what to do, and here's XYZ. I listen for the first few months and try to understand what's the organization trying to do? What are their priorities? What drives the bottom line? And then how can we align the data mission to their mission, which is I always do the 4-quadrant analysis and try to see where's my low-hanging fruit, where my big projects, and tackle them. That way I stay relevant, I'm delivering value, but I'm also pushing that data literacy effort behind the scenes. And before you know it, we've got stewards, we've got standards, we've got policies, we're talking about data literacy. It's a really great thing to see in action.
No, I think that makes so much sense, because I feel like that aspect of, like you said, the low-hanging fruit, that really addresses multiple things. I mean, it helps you figure out where you can make the biggest impact. And then I think it does a great job of, again, tying it back to the point you talked about, accountability, because you're making sure that people are working on projects that really ultimately help the bottom line. And it's not like a siloed project, or a project that's not really delivering anything to the business. So I really love that point that you made.
Absolutely. That's the fastest way to get shelved, is to not be delivering value. And we don't do governance for the sake of governance. We do governance because it delivers value. And I think that that's one of the reasons I'm so excited about working with your team is this entire organization, and the Slack channel, which I've loved getting to follow. The Slack channel is all about, yes, data governance, but it's also about each individual industry and driving value and how to have those conversations. And so I'd recommend everyone check out the Slack channel and get involved, because it's well worth it.
Thanks a lot, William. Thanks for that shout out. Really appreciate it. And I was wondering, I mean, in terms of data governance and making an impact, I was wondering if you could share your thoughts around how data governance, let's say, fits into analytics or AI or ML projects. Does one need to happen before the other, or what are your thoughts around that?
Ooh, that's a good question. When I envision data management as a whole, I envision multiple pillars. You've got engineering, architecture, you've got your data quality, and your analytics teams. And I think that I usually position AI and ML in my analytics pillar. But if you imagine the building that we've just built, there's a lot of pillars. Governance is the roof. Governance to me sits on top and is that big umbrella that sets the rules so that AI and ML have clean, valid data to use to make their decisions. Because if you don't, then they're going to have to spend 70 to 80% of their time, is the metric I see, just doing that process of data munging and data cleaning and processing to make it usable. But having great governance ahead of time, ensuring that you've got, whether it's an SDLC with your engineering team, you've got solid architectural diagrams, and your quality teams are empowered so that you know what data is appropriate for what use, where's your source of truth. Hopefully you've got it mastered in a reference data set. And that's not even to talk about that you've got a business glossary and a data dictionary to use. If you hand that off, that total package, to an AI and ML team, they're going to go much further than if they have to do it themselves. But each company is different, and it's really about understanding what their needs are. For smaller organizations, maybe they don't need to do a full tilt, data governance mission. A couple standards and incrementally growing that over time can deliver that incremental wins and that small value to get them excited about the larger data governance mission. So I think my answer is truly, governance can only help with AI and ML if given the chance to grow, because it really helps solidify the relationships between the other divisions.
That's a great perspective, to be honest, because I feel like I hadn't heard that point of view around data governance as a unifying force or unifying
Mhm.
element, which I think is a great way to get buy-in from other lines of businesses, other teams, other functions. So I think I'm going to keep that in mind for
Yeah.
future conversations and how yeah, data governance can play a critical role. I mean, we've talked a lot about your current role, William. What data governance means, data analytics. I was wondering whether you could take a step back and let's say you had a crystal ball. How would you see this field of data management sort of evolving or changing within the next 2 to 3 years?
If I had a crystal ball, I would be in luck. I think first off, my bracket would be in better shape.
That's
I'm in
right.
big trouble. But I think that brings to mind two main topics. I think most large organizations are going through a cloud transition right now. They're trying to take advantage of everything that's the economies of scale that a cloud can bring, and also take advantage of that new technology there, whether it's graph databases, whether it's Hadoop, cloud computing, and big data processing. It can make and it could change the organization as a whole and take latency down. It can reduce data costs of servers in responsiveness if you have a lot of requests from your consumers. That's a cloud transition and migration is hard, and it takes most organizations years. I'd say 2 to 4 years to really accomplish it, because most suffer from start stops. The cloud migration program initiates, but because there's a lack of governance, it never really fully gets off the ground. Because governance is so key to big data, because unless you put filters on what you're putting in your data lakes, or what you're putting in these big data environments, quickly you're going to run into a problem where you've got terabytes of data with no parameters. You might not even have a schema. So now you've just got even more technical debt than you had before. So governance is key to that as well. I could toot that horn about governance. Don't worry about that. I can definitely do it. So I think that's 2 to 3 years from now, cloud migrations are going to be coming into more fruition. And I think they're going to be even more important for maybe medium-sized businesses. But I think that I'd like to take that theme of smaller industries. BioIQ is one that I'm really excited about, as it's not traditionally you see data governance happen in healthcare and finance at the higher end, like where there's your Fortune 100 companies that are highly regulated with billions and billions of dollars of revenue. What BioIQ has done is really approach this when they're still in the maturing phase of the organization, and they're setting governance in place so that by the time they do get to that $1 billion range, they're already ready. And any regulatory risk or compliance or orders, and if it's HIPAA, if it's Center for Medicare Services, CMS, the requirements being pushed out by those organizations, we're going to be compliant before we even cross that threshold. So I think that's a very innovative approach, and I'm thankful that the organization supports that. And I think that'll be a big topic over the next 2 to 3 years. The legal requirements and the laws always lag behind. And so I think 2 to 3 years from now, they're going to catch up. We're not going to just have GDPR and CCPA. We're going to have a whole other slew of acronyms that will likely change the game for data as an industry. And so I'm looking forward to seeing what happens.
No, I love that. I think the takeaway, if I heard you right, is there's going to be more data, more regulations. And so data governance is even more critical than it is now. And that's going to be the trend moving forward. So really love that.
Love it.
And maybe switching gears a little bit, William, I was wondering whether you could also talk about, and for our audience here, what the single best piece of advice is that you received so far in your data management career that you'd like others to be aware of, and how has it really helped you personally in your professional journey?
Yeah, I think the best piece of advice I've ever been given is it's all about the relationships you build, and showing up. I've had a lot of times in my career where I've felt that imposter syndrome creep in, and just reminding myself that just showing up is enough, because I'm always going to be learning. I'm never going to be finished with that. But it's really about those relationships. It's whether I was a student in my master's program in information quality, learning from some of the best and brightest that came from MIT and were trained out of the program. And just showing up and always raising your hand and getting to know your professors and the rest of your colleagues really changed my life. I still have friends that I meet or that I've kept since then. And just seeing the trajectory of their careers and their lives has been just really special. I think that my colleagues also have driven my success. It's not myself versus another team. It's myself and that team versus a problem. And so by thinking about it that way, it keeps it a little bit lighter. There's always time for some jokes and, hopefully when COVID passes, we get back to a little more interpersonal connection, but it's about those relationships. And that's what makes me successful. It's not necessarily, how I solved that problem. It's the relationships I built with the individuals that we solved it together.
No, I think that's great life advice too, because relationships matter both professionally and personally.
Yeah.
And I think I really love the point you made around COVID, because I felt like, especially in this day and age where everyone's remote, that kind of relationship building, consensus building, that's something that's obviously tougher to do, but it's even more critical. So I really like that advice that you had just given. And I think I couldn't have said it better myself. And I feel like that's probably where we should leave it, because I feel like you've covered a lot of material. But before we drop, William, I was wondering whether you could let our audience know what the best way to reach out to you is.
Sure. I'm always available via LinkedIn. It's William Parsley at BioIQ. I think you can LinkedIn search me. I think it's linkedin.com/William-Parsley. I'm happy to chat with you via Messenger there if you have any questions. I'd be happy to chat if you're like coming up in your data governance career. I hope to see you on the QG Slack channel, but also reach out to me via LinkedIn. I'm passionate about education. I'm passionate about mentorship, because I'm only here due to the work of those that supported me in my journey, my friends, my family, and my mentors, and education and career. So any advice that I've given today is just standing on the shoulders of those giants. And first, I'd like to thank you, Bharath, for taking the time to chat with me. It's been a really pleasant conversation, and I hope that if anyone has stuck around this long, don't hesitate to reach out and continue the conversation.
Thanks a lot, William. Really enjoyed our conversation today. And I haven't forgotten about the follow-up topic that we talked at the beginning of our call. So I'll be sure to reach out to you for that.
Tune in next week for
That's right.
Politics and ethics. That'll be great.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot.